our last discussion, I was kind of talking about critical thinking in more specific terms, like having students go beyond the one-factor theory. Being able to think in terms of variables and relationships among factors and variables. And I decided not to say that in the syllabus because I think, what would that mean? That is Latin. But I did say something, more generic, like, a major objective of the course is to develop your ability to use psychological knowledge to, and then it has, sort of the standard ending to that sentence, understand human actions, solve problems, etc. So that really is the overarching goal, to develop some sensibility that's that probably goes beyond what they have right now. They're coming in with this sort of these folk theories, if we can call them that. Yeah. And it would be a smashing success if at the end those were elaborated further, that they stopped and thought about, a different way of thinking about, the actions that they see or the motivations for human activity.
And so really, once we get the arc of saying, we're going to start here and we're going to go here, and let's just pick one and go with that one, is going to be the one that we're going to take a look at and then spend some time and say, okay, how does this fit in with the overarching goal, and how does it fit in with, that lesson itself and transition and all those other things. So, I don't know, maybe I'm...
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think right now, part of the work I have to do is, when you talk about the arc, instead of starting at the beginning of the arc, going to the end of the arc and figuring out, so after they've been through this social stuff, what should they know at that particular point? So then you can sort of backward design, the experiences that they're going to have. What are those key concepts? I keep thinking of this in terms of, a set of ideas that are really fundamental to psychology that would serve them well, going on in other classes, certainly, but are really addressing some of the really important ideas within the field in some degree of depth. Why do we want students to even know about this? Other than it's an interesting, social psychological phenomenon. And I think the outcome that I would anticipate coming from this is that they would be able to think in terms of the variables used in these studies. And what's nice about the bystander effect is that they're fairly concrete factors involved. The number of people in a situation, the perception of emergency or not, and things of that sort. So it really does lend itself well to, that idea that there are these antecedents here, there are these factors, and they work in various ways to produce this effect. I didn't really say that in the outcome, but I would, I think we shape that up as we go along. I mean, it really is operating on two levels, and that they could explain this bystander intervention. And to me, if they really understand it, then they ought to be able to make some predictions about how people would actually behave in circumstances. That to me indicates it's not just something they've got down in a rote way, but they can use those concepts to make predictions